Hello. Hi, everyone. Good morning. As a short introduction to the panel, maybe each panelist can just take a couple minutes and say a few words about who you are and what you do.
Sure. So good morning, everyone. My name is Alan Evans. I'm the CEO of Freebus.io. We are a platform that application creators can use to offer what we call living asset NFTs into their games or their webs or their apps. So we believe very strongly that we want to bring real value to the concept of digital ownership so that the NFTs are valued not just on speculation as to how rare they are and how collectible they are, but how they have been used by the users. So their value is based on utility in that sense.
Perfect. And my name is Rocío Pillado. I'm a partner at Adar Ventures. We are an early stage VC investor, and we do B2B investments, mainly in the Southwest Europe, and we are super interested in investing in infrastructure for Web3 that, can help create new business models and companies.
Hello, my name is Chris Ebeling, and I'm a co-founder of Virtually Human Studios. We focus on the future of entertainment in the Web3 space using blockchain technologies, NFTs, digital asset ownership to empower our users and give back to the players of these entertainments. We run a game called Zed Run, which is a digital horse racing ecosystem where you buy, breed, race, living, breathing NFTs in a digital form. And we also have another game coming out called Human Park, which is more of a exploration of self in the metaverse, avatars and how you want to identify and find your tribe in this space.
Very cool. Thank you. I love the topic today. As an investor, I love thinking about what could be some use cases and the significance of certain emerging technologies in the future. So I think talking about digital ownership and with maybe a little bit more relevant for this panel is really about NFTs. I think it's a super exciting topic, and we'll get into a few use cases today and kind of just explore with the panel what applications and what maybe ramifications that could have with certain use cases that we all know today. Just to get a sense for the audience, like how many of you guys know about NFTs? All right, great. Yeah, awesome.
Can I ask how many people own an NFT?
Oh, quite a lot.
Okay. All right, very cool. Okay, nice. So I think we can start with you, Chris. I think gaming is probably one of the earliest adopters of digital ownership and NFTs. As an entire industry, I think been very quick to adopt it. Maybe you can say a little bit more about how you see NFTs being utilized today by game developers, game studios as a concept.
Yeah. Look, so I have a 9-year-old son who likes this game called Fortnite, and it's a free game. But I've probably put more money into that game than any other game because it's of these skins, right? And these battle passes. And it doesn't take much to look at where we are in the Web 2 space and think about what NFTs and this digital asset ownership and what blockchain can do as an add-on to what Web 2 is. Web 2 gave us the opportunity. If you're a good TikTok dancer or if you're a good Twitch streamer, there's an opportunity there for you to seize by putting time in. It's no easy feat. But the same with Web3 in terms of digital asset ownership. And there's this play to earn, but I was on a panel yesterday with a guy called Alexis who actually said play and earn. And I really like that better because I think if we still have to focus on the play. It is a game, it is entertainment. It has to be fun, it has to be sticky. You have to enjoy it. But then if there's an opportunity where you can earn on top of it, by actually owning, let's just say Ronaldo's golden boot from FIFA, which is a rare item, that then has intrinsic value that you then can trade with your friends or pawn offline and get some tokens, which are then worth some Ethereum, and so on. And I think that's where we're going in this space. It's exciting with us at Zed Run, for example. We're seeing that with our digital horses. There's a lot of, oh, sorry. You can still hear me though, right? I speak. Hello. Oh. There's a lot of, there's a lot of wealth being distributed around, which I find is really, really fascinating. That's what I'm passionate about, is this new means of wealth distribution Whereas in Fortnite, they take all me and my son's money, but it sits in there. We do not own it. We can't get it out. Yes, you can sell your account, and yes, you can become an esports player and be really good at it, and then incentivize and make some money and earn on the side. But this new blockchain technology and being able to prove that you own these assets is really powerful in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And selling accounts and things like that is a bit of a gray area, right? So
it's done, but
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
Market.
And what do you see as kind of in the gaming industry, right? In the kind of forefront of creators and developers, what are some concepts that you are discussing or thinking about, or just kind of dreaming about in a way that goes beyond maybe play to earn or play and earn?
Yeah, so I mean, everybody's maybe read Snow Crash or seen this movie called Ready Player One. And while they're far-fetched and really far in the future, that's where I see us going. So at Virtually Human, we are experimenting with AI and also bringing these horses to life. I was telling Alain just before, like, I want people to fall in love with their digital racehorse. And I know you're going to label me crazy, but using virtual reality and standing in there with and haptic feedback and patting your horse and feeding it digital carrots and bringing it, having this relationship with a digital entity. Again, you just have to look backwards. We did this with a 8-bit thing in our pocket called a Tamagotchi, and we cried when it died and we rejoiced when it lived on. And so, like, us as humans, we're very simply wired, right? It doesn't take much to get an emotional connection. And with technology these days, AR, mixed reality, the HoloLenses, and what Facebook is doing with what's coming out, it's going to get more digital, and we're going to have more agency in this so-called metaverse where we will be able to feel and touch things, and so I see it getting crazy, fun, scary.
Absolutely. Speaking of Tamagotchis, I remember having at some point like 10 Tamagotchis hanging off my keychain, right? So it's definitely the idea of collectibles and wanting to take care of something, and it's a very strong instinct. Alan, I think Freeverse is definitely one of the more interesting kind of technologies out there that might open up quite a few use cases potentially, not just in gaming, but maybe in the context of gaming. Could you maybe say a few words about what you're seeing?
Yeah. So Chris and I sing from the same hymn sheets, right? So I agree completely with I think the vision that both companies have is very, very similar. This idea of ownership beyond just buying something to look at it, right? The NFTs have done that very successfully, and there's been like play-to-earn games that are now becoming play-and-earn games that have made a boom in the last year or so. But what I find particularly interesting is what is the Web2 gaming's opinion and how it's going to move into it, right? So, Chris, you mentioned FIFA. EA are not going to just tokenize every single card in FIFA Ultimate Team tomorrow, right? So they're a super tanker, they go slow, right? And so what I think is very interesting there is how much opportunities there are for companies, like you guys, more infrastructure level people like us, because there's going to be a whole suite of these new companies coming in and occupying that space. And we saw that with free-to-play when it came out 15 years ago, right? Free-to-play, I'm going to give away a game for free. And the big giants were like, oh, I'm never going to give a game for free. I've got a business model, it works. But of course, thanks to that, we saw the Rovios and the Zyngas and all these new companies that have appeared and are now giants, right? And so in that sense, I think how we, the current builders in the Web3 space, particularly in the gaming side, can present solutions and ideas, not just to the users, but also the established companies, is very important. And so what we do at Freeverse, for example, is the idea that an NFT should change based on how it's used. And the Tamagotchi example is a really good example of that, right? So the Tamagotchi is wonderful because you left it, it would die, right? So you need to go back and play with it. But also, it makes sense in the general gaming field. Gamers are used to the idea of being able to upgrade their assets in a game. Like, I'm a massive role-playing game fan, so I'm always pumping experience points into my characters and my items and so on and so forth. And right now, those items are stuck in the game, as Chris mentioned. Right? You pump money in, they stay there forever. And I think it's a kind of a revolution, that idea that if I'm pumping my time and my effort into my digital assets, whether it's characters or items or horses or whatever it is, then I should be rewarded potentially for that effort, right? And so whether it's play to earn, play and earn, or just play with a blockchain component, I think that's something that is kind of central to what we believe in at Freebus, the idea of having a slightly more fairer, we call it playing fair in the metaverse, right? So you're linking gaming, playing, and fairness, metaverse. I think that's kind of going to be a real big thing in the next few years.
Very interesting. And Rocio, as an investor, these are creators, they're really at the forefront of maybe what's to come. What are you seeing in terms of, from an investor perspective, do you think that this is kind of like widely adopted, these play-to-earn games, this concept of digital ownership within gaming? I'd love to see your perspective.
Not yet, but definitely should. I mean, as Alum and Chris said, that's definitely the future. So everyone is already thinking about, how to get items out of the games, get some value from them, trade them, stuff like that. So it seems, illogical to believe that they're going to stay in there and publishers will just, continue doing what they do. Yeah. So, and we see a lot of startups creating new games that, use digital assets and have NFTs. Big companies doing pilots, trying to incorporate NFTs in, their products somehow, not only games, but, other things. So everyone is thinking about it. They're putting people like chief Web3 officers to think about it, right? To think about ideas on how to exploit this. And as we saw, in the past with internet, people were like, yeah, some people will use internet, but not everyone, right? And now, I mean, there is no one in this room that is not using internet every day, right? So Web3 will be the same. I mean, we will all be using it every day in the future. We just don't know exactly how right now, but it will happen.
Yeah. I would agree with that, but kind of a biased perspective, I think, as a early stage investor. So, I mean, I think gaming is kind of one of the early adopter sectors, but it would be interesting to talk about digital ownership in a broader sense. And I think another very kind of emerging category of digital ownership is actually this idea of, I think we kind of know it as social tokens, right? Where you can kind of engage with a celebrity or some creator that you want to support and potentially get, some kind of piece of whatever the community that celebrity or influencer represents. I'd love to get your thoughts, Alan, on where you see that part of the industry going. I think you're speaking with quite a few brands and
yeah. Actually, funnily enough, the gaming sector is obviously it's a clear, logical application for Web3 technology. But we're seeing loads of interest right now in what we call the passion economy, right? So this idea of users wanting to engage with their passion in a certain way, whether that passion is an IP, whether it's a celebrity, whether it's a brand, whether it's an event we're seeing as well, like South Summit, for example. So how does digital ownership fit into that, that paradigm? And so one thing that a client of ours is doing is in this sort of digital celebrity space is actually gifting NFTs for free, right? So just for signing up, you're getting a free NFT, right? So it's literally worthless. Your NFT, so it's going against the entire paradigm of NFTs being rare and special and expensive, and they cost $69 million or whatever it is. And so it's literally free. So why do you have it? Well, it gives you an image, a picture. So what? Super. But if you engage with that NFT, right, you're gonna, make something a trending topic on Twitter this month, or you're going to post a lot on Discord, or you're going to share on Instagram, or you're going to watch an advert, or you're even going to pay, right? You're going to level up that NFT, and in exchange, you get certain levels of rewards. And so those rewards might be videos, they might be animated 3D, they might be even real-world rewards, discount on merchandise, a VIP access, even a meet and greet to a celebrity. And these are things that we're discussing now with our clients because celebrities get or the brands, let's say, the passion economy creators, they get the increased exposure and the increased engagement with their audience, and the audience get a reward, right? And that reward is manifested as an NFT, which of course can then be traded, right? And so there's all sorts of these interesting new business models and engagement methods that I think beyond the games industry, sort of the passion economy and the brands are looking at as well. So it's very interesting.
Very interesting. And maybe we could take that one step further, maybe in kind of with the concept of it's digital identity, right? I think soul-bound tokens is kind of what we talked about. Would love to maybe get your thoughts on what that is, first of all, and how that changes a little bit the model.
Yeah, I actually think digital identity is something that's obviously important to you guys as well, Chris, right? Because you were telling me earlier, just as you were preparing, about how the community is really key, and I think this idea of how an NFT can contribute to who you are in the wider digital world. Okay, let's call it the metaverse, right? Everyone doesn't know what the term means. Whatever that is, right? It's the wider digital world, right?
Jury's still out.
And so, yes, you can have NFTs that can be traded, right? And they represent, what you own helps represent, identify you. So, we've turned up, quite casually today, except for Theo looking very smart. And so, you're all kind of making assumptions, right, about who we are because of what we own, right? But I think there is also this idea of soul-bound tokens, and that's been talking about as well. And this is one of our clients, a spin-off from Caltech in the States, creating NFTs that represent your achievements, right? And so what you have achieved, whether it's in professional, whether it's in volunteering, or whether it's in any other field of your life. And those NFTs are yours forever, and you can't trade them.
It's more about who you are.
Exactly. So they help define who you are, and they help have this external verification of the blockchain, which is there forever, which demonstrates who you are. And so I think that idea of having a soul-bound token is interesting.
I'm really interested.
And creepy.
Yeah, I'm interested in terms of the privacy there, whether that's just, do I get to choose what I show them? Or do you, through the blockchain, have full transparency on who I am?
That's a great question.
And I think that's really...
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think it's very interesting. I think, and if you think of it from the pure Web3 decentralized approach, the idea should be that information is stored on the blockchain, but then you, as the owner, should give permission as to who could use it. Exactly. And that's the key aspect.
But what I love about it is we should own our own medical records.
Right.
There shouldn't be a third party. Like everybody knows when you go to the dentist or you go to get an X-ray, it's a pain in the backside, and somebody else has your information. Like why? That's my body. That's my teeth. What's left of them. I want to keep those records, and I should be owning those in my wallet or in my repository, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool.
And maybe something that you don't want to sell.
Yeah, and maybe not. Maybe not.
Or why not? I mean,
Or maybe,
for a clinical trial, if they pay well, I mean, why not?
Yeah, that's dangerous. But on your point, you were talking about other places to use it, like with celebrities, and I just want to say to the room, there's a guy out there, if you don't know him, Gary Vaynerchuk, absolute beast in terms of entrepreneurship and also in this space. Like he has this thing called V-Friends, V tokens, and he's done some smart things. I don't know if you saw, he sold a book, right? And if you bought 12 of his books, you were promised a token. So of course, me being in this, I had to try. So I bought 12. I had friends who bought 148, so they'd get 12 tokens, right? And what these tokens then gave you were an early access to then his V-Friends. And so it's like, while it's not a game, it's a gamified approach. Because we are, Pokemon, you got to collect them all, and then when you combine them, you now get access and utility, and you get to go in through this, behind these curtains, and it unlocks things, right? And what he does then is he has conferences called, the Gary V or the V conference or whatever. VCon, yeah. But you have a token, one of those tokens. You now can go to any of his conferences anytime. So I could go to one and get all I needed, and I could give it to you, and now you can go to the next one. So it's like this backstage pass element. It's been done before, You look at someone like, Kanye West, for bad and worry, like again, another crazy entrepreneur, but he made people line up for these Yeezys. He made people line up and dress in this fashion like statement and create a culture. And that's really what, again, these Bored Apes are, or these Moonbirds, or whatever these kind of digital identities are. It's clout, it's flex, it's like wearing a Rolex. I'm not, it's a Skagen, it's like $100 maybe, if that. But like, it's digital clout and flex, and it's something that we've always done as humans, Some people like to wear the Ferrari hat because they have a Ferrari, and some people have some really nice Jordans because they're worth $300.
And they never wear them.
And they never. Well, I've got a pair, and I can't justify wearing them,
No,
right?
yeah.
Like
Yeah,
it's art. But then, do we tokenize them, right? And do we then prove digital ownership through tokenizing your expensive sneakers, your Rolex?
Yeah.
That's really interesting because I think, obviously, the collectibles economy, as you mentioned, exists in the real world. People do collect Air Jordans and Rolexes and Ferrari hats and all that kind of stuff. And what we've seen over the last year to 18 months is that collectibles economy come into the digital world now with NFTs, which is great, and it's made a lot of money, and it's super wonderful. But I think of it kind of as the tip of the iceberg, right? If the collectibles economy in the real world represents a fraction of the real world economy, then the collectibles economy in the digital world also is the tip of the iceberg, and there's a whole enormous iceberg under the surface, which is now just beginning to shift and turn up. And and companies like you guys and like us, and you guys are investing in other companies that are really building what's going to be in the rest of that iceberg right now. And it's a very exciting time to be in that space.
I love to think about what other part of that iceberg, right, digital ownership can be applied to. Rocio, I'd love to hear about some of the other verticals, applications that you're seeing. Yeah.
Yeah, as you said before, I think everything around creators and artists, stuff like that I think it's going to be like the next, big thing around Web3, because there is a lot of disconnection, right, between the artists and their followers or fans, and this got to change very soon. And actually, we have recently invested in a company that they were thinking about using social tokens, but they decided to use NFTs finally, and they have this kind of keys from one artist or creator or something that allows you to go into certain spaces, get certain experiences, share information with a community close to the artist, stuff like that. And it's not just a key. The key can evolve and become, a key for different doors, different artists, different spaces, stuff like that. So creators can fundraise or, just get feedback from their communities and their fans through Web3 very easily. And there is like contracts between them. So every time they negotiate a thing, it gets registered. Every time something happens, it gets there, so it doesn't get lost.
Yeah.
So I think it's super interesting, and that's we've been looking at that space for a long time, and we finally decided to bet on one company. But I think there is like 3 or 4 super interesting bets on that space, and I think that will be definitely something super interesting in the next, 2-3 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the commonality here is a little bit kind of turning the incentive systems right around a lot of these ownership models, the traditional ownership models, on its head, and saying, look, the more that you participate in this brand, community, game, whatever, right, the more that you're also able to participate in the upside. For example, I've heard of a payments infrastructure company, right? Today, if you're a Stripe or so, you just sell or just have a merchant kind of plug into your payments infrastructure, and the more that they sell, the more that the payments company makes. And if you kind of add in this kind of ownership element to it for the merchant, it all of a sudden creates an incentive system where, right, the more checkouts, the more users and customers that they bring through that payment flow, the more that the merchant themselves get to benefit from that upside, right? So it's not a completely unequal kind of relationship over time, right? And it's a little bit more of a distributed ownership kind of concept. Do you see any of this happening in the supply chain and different, like really kind of wildly different verticals in the world? Maybe that's just kind of an open question, right? Because it's such a new piece of technology.
Well, I think everything around industry, they are far behind on digitalization. I think there is a lot of things that they need to do before thinking about digital assets, stuff like that.
Very interesting.
But definitely around products, something that will come super soon. Probably not around the process of creating them or building them, but the rest.
I think traceability is very interesting. So we're chatting with a potential client right now who's building a system of traceability of where your clothes come from. And that's actually something I'm personally very interested in. Like, I'm really anti the whole fast fashion person, the other thing. So I'm really interested in this idea that when you buy clothes, how do you know where they've come from and where they've come from and when they were constructed, when they were made, fabricated, where they were sold, right? And so how blockchain is as a general technology enables you or a company to build that into your supply chain. How public you want to make that, right? Because I know there are private blockchains that can store that data as well, right? You don't have to go use a public blockchain to do it. And whether you use NFTs or tokens or whether you just write your own smart contracts, I think that is being defined, but I think there's a lot of really interesting work being done in that space in the supply chain side.
Yeah, very cool, very interesting. I think we have a couple minutes left. Would love to maybe take some questions from the audience. The front.
Yeah, they're bringing one.
Just shout at us.
1 second. Or
We
just
can hear
shout.
you.
Angry shouting. Passionate shouting.
Okay, well, congrats. First, I'm in Cadenas, I'm in Metaverse. And the name is the future of digital assets. And we are just talking about NFTs. That's lovely. We are launching NFTs all this month, so we love it. But what about the other kinds of tokenization? Because 5 years ago, Jurassic Park, just 5 years ago, everybody talked about security tokens, equity tokens, utility, and NFT was bullshit, was nothing. And suddenly this year is the NFT fear. So what do you think is, we have to forget the security token, the utility token? Do you think that is focusing different targets? What do you think? All of you.
Where Lina was talking about the social tokens, which really are utility tokens, they're like cryptocurrencies, really, right? And I think for the creators economy, I mean, it makes total sense because you get, currency or ownership, or you can get some value out of whatever the creator is producing. If you own a part of his company or his name or his brand or whatever, right? So I think it makes sense on some use cases. Although I think regulation around equity tokens, it's so complex, it's changing so much that there is not so much of startups daring to do something on that space. And the ones that did, they're suffering. So we investors, at least on our side, we are, just waiting and see what's going on.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit like autonomous vehicles, right? It's from a technology perspective, maybe it feels very close, and a lot of people are, there's Tesla, there's a lot of different companies trying to think about autonomous vehicles. But the reality is, I think when we look at kind of an adoption curve and everything that needs to happen kind of beyond technology for something like security tokens, or something to really be kind of utilized in day-to-day, right, in a corporate environment, selling it to a customer, I think there's still a lot of open questions around, what needs to happen first in order to enable a lot of the new, alternative applications of this kind of token.
When we founded Freeverse in 2019, the first question that everyone asked us was, "Are you launching your own token?" And the answer was no, because we were just coming off the back of a whole slew of token launches, ICOs, and many of them were worthless eventually within a year or two. And so we're in that bust cycle now where token launches aren't so popular because there's been a lot of rubbish ones. But now I think there is a renewed interest coming in that now. I think if you launch a token which, with a plan that it has a value, of some variety.
It needs utility.
And it needs utility. It can't just be a financial value. That's the key point. It needs to have some sort of use beyond just a store of value. So I think there we're going to see more
And
interest.
just from my point of view, we are in gaming, we are in the entertainment space, and obviously we're creating an ecosystem, and that ecosystem does need this intrinsic circular economy. So we are being issued a token soon. If you follow us on Twitter, you'll get more information there. Yeah.
To be a DAO, you need a token, you need your own ecosystem to govern that, so you need.
Yeah, maybe not for DAO though, more for utility, So think about it again, look at Fortnite, look at Web2, look at all these tokens that are floating around, the V-Bucks and all this stuff that's in the COD points, or Roblox, the Roadbucks, right? Like Roblox is a great example. those could be tokens, but we have to be smart to create a circular economy and make sure that those tokens are staying in the system. So you as a creator, you have to give enough utility, enough reason for them to stake their tokens or use their tokens back into your platform. And again, you just got to gamify that experience and think really smart. And we've got some things brewing, which I can't disclose just yet.
Can maybe answer the second question off stage. We have like the kind of the closing music. So thank you so much. Thank you to the panel. Really appreciate your time and thoughts today.